Hello! In this video, I'm going to explain why the psychophysical harmony argument is not defeated by evolution. That is, evolution cannot explain why psychophysical harmony exists, so the psychophysical harmony argument still succeeds. First, I'm going to give a recap of the argument from psychophysical harmony. I have a video where I discuss the argument in greater depth, but I still want to go over the general argument here, so let's get into that. Philosophers have spent a lot of time discussing the relation between the physical and the mental. What relationship does mental stuff, like consciousness, experiences, and the mind, have to physical stuff, like atoms, molecules, and the brain? Philosophers have come up with a bunch of theories. Some think that mental stuff like thoughts and experiences are somehow produced by matter. Others think that a physical thing, like your brain, and a mental thing, like your mind, are really just the same thing viewed from different perspectives. And so on. There are tons of other theories. Now, for our present purposes, it doesn't matter which of these theories is true, because this argument isn't about what the relationship between physical and mental things is. It's about which physical things are related to which mental things. For example, there are particular physical nerves in your body called C fibers that are responsible for pain. That is, whenever these nerves fire, you feel the experience of pain. The statement, whenever C fibers fire, pain is experienced, is called a psychophysical law. It tells you which mental experience is tied with a particular physical state. Notice, it doesn't tell you that C fibers produce the experience of pain, or C fibers and pain are the same thing viewed from different perspectives. No, we're sidestepping that debate and just making a very uncontroversial claim. Whenever C fibers fire, pain is experienced. Now, the psychophysical harmony argument essentially points out how lucky the psychophysical laws are. Imagine what the world would be like if a different psychophysical law were true instead. Let's use, whenever C fibers fire, pleasure is experienced. If you stubbed your toe in this hypothetical world, then something bad would happen, your body gets damaged, and C fibers would fire just like normal, but you would have a positive experience instead of a negative one. This would be a pretty bad mismatch. In the real world, though, there is harmony between the physical world and our mental experiences. If God exists, then he would want to make sure our mental experiences accurately reflected the external world. So it makes sense why the psychophysical laws have so much harmony built into them. However, if God doesn't exist, then we just got really lucky that our psychophysical laws are so harmonious. That's the general idea of the argument. If you're still fuzzy on the argument's logic, I recommend you watch my original video before continuing. But now we'll be getting into the point of this video, how evolution interacts with this argument. I think that what most people are thinking of when they raise the question of evolution is that in a world where C fibers firing is connected with pleasure instead of pain, evolution would make sure that C fibers wouldn't fire when our bodies are damaged. Like if someone experienced pleasure whenever they stubbed their toes, then they would intentionally stub their toes a bunch, and then they would have messed up feet and wouldn't be able to outrun ferocious predators. And stuff like that. So evolution would make sure that, however our bodies are structured, the kinds of nerves that would fire and whatnot would always be the kinds of nerves that would make sense in the given context. We'd always feel something bad when our bodies were getting damaged, and we'd always feel something good when eating nutritious food, for example. Side note, while I'm focusing on pain and pleasure, there are tons of other examples where the psychophysical laws are lucky. I'm just focusing on pain and pleasure for simplicity. Now, I want you to imagine the following hypothetical world. In this world, we get some very strange psychophysical laws. Every physical state is connected with experiencing the taste of strawberry. That is, whenever C fibers fire, the taste of strawberry is experienced rather than pain. Whenever dopamine receptors fire, the taste of strawberries is experienced rather than pleasure. Whenever anything in your brain happens, the taste of strawberries is experienced. There are no other mental experiences ever produced at all. No sounds, no smells. People's minds are just filled with experiencing the taste of strawberries all the time, no matter what their brains look like. Obviously, if these were the psychophysical laws that were true, evolution could not actually ensure that we feel pain when our bodies get damaged. Evolution could only make it so that we experience the taste of strawberries when our bodies get damaged. Hopefully, through this thought experiment, you're starting to understand something important about psychophysical harmony. Evolution can only give you accurate mental experiences if it's been dealt the right psychophysical laws. If you give evolution garbage psychophysical laws, then evolution can only give you garbage mental experiences. But you might be thinking, fine, you could come up with a contrived set of psychophysical laws that make it impossible for us to evolve an appropriate mental response to our bodies getting damaged, but this is just one really weird example. Well, actually, this example involves a set of psychophysical laws that's much simpler than our own psychophysical laws that we actually have. So arguably, the strawberry world is more intrinsically probable than our own. So, given atheism, we should be surprised we don't live in something like the strawberry world. If you don't understand what I'm getting at here, then once again, I urge you to check out my original video if you haven't already. Anyways, setting aside the strawberry world, even a world like the one we're considering earlier, where pleasure is the result of stubbing your toe, even that cannot be ruled out by evolution, due to the fact that evolution needs to work with the psychophysical laws that it's been given. Why is this? Well, before answering, we need to briefly get back to discussing theories of the relationship between physical things and mental things. We need to ask the question of whether or not mental things cause stuff to happen in the physical world. Let's assume first that they don't. This view is called epiphenomenalism. Some philosophers take this stance because they don't want the laws of physics being violated by mysterious mental things. Now, if epiphenomenalism is true, then no matter what psychophysical laws obtain, evolution would act in exactly the same way. Whether pain or pleasure or the taste of strawberries was the outcome of stubbing your toe, there would be no physical difference in the world, so evolution would have no reason to select for one rather than the other. Thus, if epiphenomenalism is true and there is no God, this is what the history of our world looked like. Once upon a time, evolution started blindly chugging along, producing increasingly complex organisms, not caring about the mental lives these creatures had, because their mental lives didn't do anything in the physical world. We could be experiencing literally anything, and evolution couldn't care less. And then one day, evolution produced us, creatures who experience negative things when something negative happens, like our bodies getting damaged, and we experience positive things when something positive happens, like eating good food. Since evolution wasn't trying to produce this result and there is no God tinkering with the psychophysical laws, this was just one big coincidence. The end. Now, if the psychophysical laws were different, no part of that history would change, except that our mental lives would stop making sense. If pleasure were the result of C fibers firing, then evolution would not care at all. It would still make C fibers fire when you stubbed your toe, because mental experiences don't affect the physical world, given epiphenomenalism. And so your physical body would act the same way when those C fibers fired. Your physical body would still protect its toe, and it would still yell out, "Ow, my toe!" And it would still move that annoying chair that it kept stubbing its toe on. This is because, given epiphenomenalism, your body is only governed by the laws of physics. And those actions are what the laws of physics make your body do when you stub your toe and C fibers fire. So, under epiphenomenalism, if there is no God, it's actually incredibly surprising that we do feel pain when we stub our toes, given that there is absolutely no reason this should be the case. Okay, but what if we reject epiphenomenalism? What if mental things can causally affect physical things? Well, then pain has some sort of influence on physical things. What is this influence? Let's assume for illustrative purposes that pain somehow activates the motor neurons that make you pull your limbs toward yourself. So, if you touch your hand to a hot stove, then C fibers fire, which leads to the experience of pain, and then this mental thing, the pain, activates the physical motor neurons that pull your hand away from the stove. This is why evolution has ensured that when you stub your toe or touch a hot stove, you feel pain, because it protects your body by activating the correct motor neurons. Coolio. However, we can imagine a world where pleasure, rather than pain, does the exact same thing. It activates those particular motor neurons. In that world, if you touched a hot stove, C fibers would fire, which leads to the experience of pleasure because the psychophysical laws are different in this world. And this mental thing, the pleasure, activates the motor neurons that pull your hand away from the stove. these two worlds, the one where pain activates such and such motor neurons, and the world where pleasure activates those motor neurons, are equally intrinsically probable on the assumption that there is no God. So, on atheism, we're actually just lucky that we feel pain rather than pleasure when we touch a hot stove. Now, all these points generalize. If the mental thing, pain, does something else than activating motor neurons, we can still imagine pleasure doing the exact same thing. Whatever physical effects are brought about by the experience of pain, we can just as easily imagine pleasure bringing about those physical effects. So, if you respond, well, forget activating motor neurons, that's not what pain does. Actually, pain affects our brains in such a way, it activates all the right neurons, that it causes us to have the thought process, hey, I should avoid that harmful action in the future. And because pain causes us to have this thought process, evolution would promote it when we damage our bodies. Well, we can imagine a world where pleasure has this effect. It activates those particular neurons and leads us to have this exact thought process. This world is just as intrinsically probable. I think people have difficulty with this point because they can't imagine liking pain and disliking pleasure. However, as long as pain actually does something to the world, and as long as pleasure actually does something to the world, we can imagine swapping what they do. And as long as the mental experience of liking something actually does something to the world, and as long as the mental experience of disliking something actually does something to the world, we can imagine swapping what they do as well. To put all this another way, if you want to posit that pain has some mysterious and very specific physical effect on the world, and that's the real reason evolution selected for it to be the mental thing produced when you stub your toe, well, it's just as easy to posit that pleasure has that mysterious physical effect. Both of these hypotheses would have the same prior probability. Now, here's another point that generalizes. We've been discussing a hypothetical world where pain is replaced by pleasure, but we can run the same logic with other experiences too, like a world where pain is replaced by the visual experience of the color green, or a world where pain is replaced by the smell of cheese, or any other experience. Almost all of these would be really bizarre mental responses to something negative happening. So we're actually super duper lucky that we feel anything remotely coherent like pain when we damage our bodies. So, in conclusion, evolution can only bring about psychophysical harmony if the psychophysical laws are first designed very precisely to bring about psychophysical harmony. This is easily shown with the strawberry world. Now, if epiphenomenalism is true, then evolution has no tendency to bring about mental experiences that make any sense whatsoever. But if epiphenomenalism is false, evolution would only bring about the right mental experiences in a given set of circumstances if those mental experiences had the proper physical effects. But we can just as easily imagine assigning those same physical effects to the wrong mental experiences. So, we have no reason to assign a high prior probability to the proposition that we would experience the proper mental experience in a given set of circumstances. In fact, given just how many mental experiences would be inappropriate in response to a given circumstance, we should overwhelmingly expect our mental lives to be utterly incoherent if there is no God. Anyways, that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.